Entrepreneurship can be really, really hard, and doubly so if you're a mom trying to do it all. Raising little kids, running a household, all while trying to make progress on your business. That is a ton of work. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what it's been like for me personally over the last year. I welcomed my second baby a year ago. He just turned 1 last week. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what that's been like for me, having that new baby in the home while also trying to make progress on my business, and offer up a few tips to kind of help you cope if you're in a similar season of life that I'm in right now. If you're new around here, my name's Rachel Harrison-Sund, and I help people to create and sell journals, planners, notebooks, and more on the Kindle Direct publishing platform. If that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell so that you can be notified every time I put out one of these videos each and every Monday. Okay, the very first tip is to just recognize that your own needs matter. When we talk about work-life balance, that life bit, that's not just about, how to run the household while also maintaining a career. The only way you're ever going to achieve balance is if your own well-being is thrown into the mix there, and that includes whatever your needs are, figuring out first what are my needs and making sure that they are met. Raising kids, that's definitely going to be the most important work that we do. But you can give yourself permission to want more, give yourself permission to have your own hopes and dreams. And, this actually does set a really good example for our children. When they can see us having our own hopes and dreams and pursuing them, that is great role modeling. If they see us doing that, then that is what they are going to do as well. So this actually, it doesn't just help us, it helps them as well. So do give yourself permission to have needs, have hopes, dreams, goals, and give yourself permission to go out there and get them met. That is how you will achieve balance. Now, one caveat to that, of course, when we're talking about really little kids, like brand new babies, that first year or two, we're in survival mode, right? So that is a period where we kind of really do have to put our own needs on the back burner for a short time. But I think the point there is don't leave them on the back burner indefinitely. When you're out of that survival mode, get reacquainted with what your needs are and put those front and center again, and make sure that you are meeting those needs, because our needs can only go unmet for so long before we really just start to crumple in on ourselves as human beings. So your needs matter, and don't forget that. Okay, the second tip is to give yourself permission to be a mere mortal. The idea of balance, it's a great thing to strive for, but it just simply isn't possible at all times. I think it was Gloria Steinem that said, we can have it all, but we can't do it all. And couldn't agree more with that sentiment. There's going to be some balls that are dropped along the way, and we have to be okay dropping those balls and just letting them roll away. And the other really important thing here, I think too, is we have to be okay with other people seeing us drop some balls. I think a lot of us, we try really hard to be such great moms, and we don't want any of them to see us crying in the shower or, just in any instance where we don't have it all together, like we think we should have it all together. But I think this is really harmful. I think when we're all trying to keep these facades up about how we've all got it together and we're able to, keep the clean house and feed the healthy meals and exercise and blah, 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 and do all of it, this is not helpful to anyone else. And, it can feel really vulnerable sharing that we are feeling challenged or struggling or dropping the balls. But I think if we can just laugh about these things, allow ourselves to drop the balls and let other people see us dropping those balls, I think that bar that I was talking about earlier that's up here, that can drop down a few rungs. And I think we should all be okay with that. And we should be able to laugh about all this together and just take some of the stress and the pressure off. Just release some of the pressure, release the pressure valve. And yeah, I think, the best way to do that is just admit we are mere mortals here. We cannot do it all, nor should we even bother trying to do it all. The other thing here is that you're a human being and you are allowed to experience the full range of human emotions. You don't have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off and then, do it all with a smile on your face at all times. You don't have to feel like #grateful at all times. You are allowed to feel anger or sadness or guilt, or, you're allowed to be annoyed. And not only that, you're allowed to express those things to other people as well. Of course, it's important with any negative emotion, like we don't want to live there. We don't want to dwell in that place for too long. But the quickest way to get through those emotions is to just experience them, express them, let them out so that we can actually move through them. Because if we don't do that, if we try and do all of this with a smile on our face, come on, we know how that feels when that anger and that resentment just builds and builds and builds, and then we blow our top. I don't know. I blow my top. I don't know about you guys. I'm sure some of you out there can relate to that, but it's important to admit that we have these feelings and it's okay to have them. We don't have to feel guilty about having them, especially, like I talked about at the top. Sometimes we can feel guilty about having these emotions when we know that there are so many other people that are struggling even more than we are. But just because someone else is struggling more than you are, that does not invalidate the feelings that you are having in whatever the moment is that you're having. So just keep that in mind. You're human, you are entitled to your feelings, you are allowed to have them, and you are allowed to express them. Just don't dwell in them for too long, but you do need to express them in order to move through them. So that's okay. Okay, so the third tip, and we're moving a little bit more into the practical side of things now, is to prioritize, organize, and simplify. So right off the bat, whatever your to-do list is, and I'm sure it's 100 miles long like mine is, we really want to be able to prioritize what actually needs to get done and what doesn't need to get done. If there's anything on your list that can wait for another day or for another month, or heck, if it doesn't really need to get done at all, drop it off the list. We really only want to focus on what's the one thing that if that gets done today, I'm going to feel good about it. So just simplify that as much as you can. And whatever's left, if you can delegate it, great. We'll get to that in another tip in a minute here. Get rid of the stuff you could delegate. Whatever's left, we want to organize and simplify as much as possible. So the very first thing that we do is my husband and I, we have a shared Google Calendar. So whether it's an appointment for him or an appointment for me or an appointment for the kids, it's all going on the shared calendar. So that way we know there's never going to be any scheduling conflicts. My husband and I share a car because we both work from home, so there really is no reason for us each to have our own car. So this becomes important if, I'm scheduled to go to the dentist and he's trying to schedule a doctor's appointment or something like that, then we can each see what the other person's schedule looks like and, arrange our own schedules accordingly. Now, also on the Google Calendar is personal stuff. So I was saying at the top, we need to make sure that our own personal needs are met. Well, some of my personal needs are I need to have a walk every day after lunch, and I have to have my little meditation after work. If those bare minimum things are not being met, I start to crumble. I really need that little bit of time to decompress. So I've got lunch at 12:30, at 1 o'clock to 1:45, I go on a walk, and then at 5:30 to about 5:45, it's just a 15-minute sliver of time, but that's when I do my meditation, and that is in the calendar. So that way, if my husband Sush is planning anything, he can see that I've got those things in there, and he's not going to schedule anything on top of that because he knows that is my time, and he does the same thing for his stuff as well. Also, when it's in the calendar, I know that I'm going to follow through with that. I'm not going to blow off my 15-minute meditation. It's in the calendar. I know that it's there for me and my own well-being, and so I do it. I also use project management software, Asana. I use that primarily for my business, but I also have a personal project in there. So all of my personal tasks, they're all in there. I've got due dates on them. I can see them, when they're coming up within the week. I see, okay, I've got this coming up, I've got this coming up. And that just helps me to stay organized and on top of any appointments and to-dos and things like that I really want to get done. Now, another way to organize and simplify is with the meal planning. So a huge game changer for me, and I've been doing this for years now, is ordering my groceries online. The grocery store that we use, it's like a $5 surcharge, and I can just open up the app, order my groceries, and then they're delivered. I never even have to leave the house. If this is something that's available to you in your area and it's a reasonable price, like $5, I highly, highly recommend doing this. This shaves so much time. I am definitely someone who would just wander aimlessly up and down the aisles. Even if I had a list, I'd be standing there like grabbing things, looking at labels, and it would take forever. This was a game changer. Now, what really was like an extreme game changer was organizing and saving lists on that grocery app. So I created about 5 weeks worth of meal plans that I have stored in this app, and I can just go in and say, okay, what are the groceries I need for this week's meal plan? And then after the 5 weeks are up, you can just rotate and start back at 1. Now, I didn't sit down and do this all in one big go, but I had 1 week where I planned out all of my meals for the week. And then I opened up the grocery app and I wrote down, I entered all of the ingredients required for those meals. Now, I'm not talking about things like flour and sugar. I have a separate list for that are kind of like, I call them the grocery basics. And then I've got my meal plan week 1, meal plan week 2, meal plan week 3, 4, and 5. And I've just entered all of the ingredients. So I just know, okay, it's week 2. So I go into my little list stored on the app and I can see all the ingredients needed for those meals. And I just go down the list and check off the ones that I need. You know, I might have some of those ingredients already from the last time, so I don't need to order those, but I can see like, okay, no, I need kale for this one, or I need whatever, chicken soup for that one, whatever. It's already entered in there, and I'm not going through all that mental work of the meal planning, and it helps a lot. I've also got a separate, like I just mentioned, grocery basics list. So that's just got, you know, like the milk and bread and eggs and just that stuff that you order kind of the same thing over and over again each week. And that is a huge time saver. Now you can enter as many different weeks as you want. Like I said, I was just 1 week, I did a meal plan for 1 week. I entered that. Following week, I did another meal plan for the week, entered that. And I did that about 5 weeks in a row. And now there's 5 weeks of meal plans and I can just rotate them. And it's 5 weeks. I mean, if you're eating the same thing kind of like once every 5 weeks, I don't think anyone's really going to get sick of that, right? So that is a huge, huge way to shave off some time from grocery shopping. Another way to simplify is by creating capsule wardrobes. So this is something that I do every season. I just take an hour or so. I go into my closet. If it's summer, I've kind of got everything pulled out of my closet. And then I just pick out like 8 tops and like, 6 pairs of pants and maybe like a couple of going out shirts, a couple of layers. And I put everything away into storage. And then when I go into the closet in the morning, I've just got like 8 tops. And frankly, all I really wear are like black or white t-shirts and like jeans or leggings. That is basically my uniform, especially because I work from home. That might look different for you if you're going out to an office or something like that. But paring down the wardrobe, it really just gets rid of the decision fatigue because I know I'm essentially wearing the same thing every day. And, I'm not walking into a crammed wardrobe going like, oh my God, what do I wear? I've arranged it so that my 8 or whatever tops will go with like pretty much all of my 6 or whatever pairs of pants. There's no thinking there. I can literally just walk in, grab a top, grab a pair of bottoms, and I know that they're going to work together. And that just creates a little bit more of a streamlined experience in the morning when I've woken up and I really don't have much in the way of energy or thinking power yet. So I do the same thing with the kids' wardrobes as well. I've got like 4 pairs of pants and 4 tops for each of my kids. And I know that may not sound like much, but I'm doing laundry a couple times a week. So those clothes are getting washed. And like, let's face it, these kids grow up so fast. They're just outgrowing these things so much. So, if I can just pare it down and keep it to the bare minimum, I think, that just really, it just streamlines everything. And you also spend less money too. And again, it's all the tops work with all the bottoms. So you can just reach in, grab one thing, grab another thing, and they just go together. So overall, it just makes a more streamlined, simplified experience. You're spending less money and it reduces that decision fatigue in the morning. You're not trying to think about what to wear. It's basically grab and go. Another way to simplify is with gifts. So I have just decided if there are any children in the family or friends or anything and there's a birthday, everyone gets a book. That's it. And you can do this with family members, you can do it with friends, whatever. Buying gifts for me has always been kind of challenging. I'm a researcher. I tend to get on the computer, fall down these rabbit holes and like, oh, should I get this? Should I get that? It's just too much for me. So now it's just, I know if there's a kid's birthday coming up, they're getting a book. And you could even go so far as to just get the same book, within a certain age range. But something like that has really helped to it's just something I don't have to think about anymore. We had a birthday party that we went to last week, and I knew I just had to stop at the bookstore and grab a book. Or, go onto Amazon and order it. It's just that easy now. Obviously, for like a spouse or your own children or something like that, you're not going to want to get the same thing every time. But for other people's kids, kids' birthday parties, things like that, this is definitely a time and mental energy saver. Another way that I'm simplifying this year is we've got Thanksgiving coming up. Probably by the time this video is posted, it will have come and gone. But I have just decided that I am not cooking Thanksgiving dinner this year. Christmas is coming up. We're going to get a big turkey dinner going then. But I have just decided this is too much for me this year. I'm really trying to get I'm trying to get away from this chronic stress that I've been experiencing. So I've decided to simplify. We're going to order in. We're still going to get together as a family, but we're going to order some food in. And that is just a way that I've decided to simplify my life this year, is to just basically say no to cooking this big dinner. And, if anyone else wanted to do it, that's great. But for me, I've just decided that I want to keep things simple. So we're just going to order in, and nobody cares. It's going to be still the family getting together and enjoying a meal together, and that's what really counts. Okay, the next tip is to delegate. As moms, we really do try and do it all, but what we should be doing is asking for a whole lot more help. You're not the only one living in your household. Everyone that lives there, barring really small children that can't even hold a mop yet, everyone has a responsibility to chip into the household. So if you are a mom who's doing absolutely everything, it's time to get some help. So that could mean sitting down with your spouse and just going over, who's doing what, and then having a reassessment every few months just to see if it's working, and if there are any more chores that kind of need to get rebalanced and renegotiated. It could mean offloading some of your chores onto your children if they're old enough. Or if you have the means, this could also mean outsourcing. So you could get a cleaner in, you could get someone to help with meals, dog walking, any of those things. If you have the means, this is a great way to use your money and buy back some of that time that you're spending doing all of this stuff yourself. Now, one thing to note here with delegation, you've got to be able to let go of that perfectionism that I know some of us have. I'm speaking mostly about myself right now, but I know some of you can relate to this. Sometimes when we ask someone to do something, if it is not done to the level that we would do it ourselves, we get miffed about that, and then we kind of just have this angry little, oh, well, I may as well just do it myself because so-and-so doesn't do a very good job. We have got to let go of this. If we're going to delegate something to someone, and we should be doing it, we have got to accept that someone else might have a different way of doing things, and they might have a different idea of what the finished product should look like. We've got to drop the perfectionism here and just allow that person to do whatever it is that we've asked them to do in the way that we want to do it. Once we can do that, we'll be much happier because we will have gotten stuff off of our own plates, and we will no longer be worried about what that outcome is. So delegate, 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 whether that's a spouse, another child, another family member, or if you are outsourcing, if you have the means to buy back your time, that's another way to do it. Okay, the next thing, and this is probably going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to suggest to stop multitasking, or at least to multitask sparingly. Now, I know that most moms, we are champion multitaskers, but studies have actually shown that when you multitask, you become less efficient and more prone to errors. Not to mention, you just end up feeling totally fried at the end of the day. Well, I do anyways. So I really try and focus on just doing one thing at a time and being okay if that other thing that I would have tried to multitask just doesn't get done. So if ever you're in a situation and you're multitasking, just ask yourself if one of those things actually needs to get done in that moment. If it really doesn't, just drop it and just try and focus on just the one thing. Save that mental energy, really focus on the one thing you're doing. And, I think this will just help you feel a lot less frazzled at the end of the day. Now, I think there are a couple of things that where I would, I would say it's okay to multitask. These are kind of like those brainless things that aren't really like tasks so much as like, I'm talking about things like watching TV while you're folding laundry, or maybe you're out on a walk and you're listening to an audiobook. Those kind of things I think are fine because one of them is sort of like it's entertainment. You're not trying to accomplish two different things at once. So I would say that's kind of fine. But in general, if it's two sort of like to-do tasks, when you can, and I know it's not always possible, but when you can, focus on one or the other and try not to multitask. All right, the next tip is to just get used to saying no a little bit more often and realizing that we don't always have to justify our reason for saying no. I think it can be really difficult as moms to say no sometimes because we're so used to putting other people's needs first. So it just becomes almost habitual to be saying yes to everything. But it is okay to say no, and we don't need a reason to say no. We can say no simply because we just don't want to do something. That's okay. And, you don't have to justify this. You can simply say, I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity for that right now. That comes across a little bit kinder than I don't want to. But like I said, if you want to go ahead and say it's because I don't want to, you have that right to do that. So say no, and remember, no is a complete sentence. The final tip is to plan for rest. You can't go nonstop forever. It's completely unsustainable. And if you're not taking at least little bits of time to rest and actually planning for it, your body will start to shut down at some point. So very important to plan for that rest. So for me, I already touched on this earlier. What that looks like is, I've got a little mental rest when I go on my walk every day. And then I've got a mental and a physical rest as well. I've got that little 15 minutes built into every day. And it doesn't sound like much, but it actually makes a world of difference in my overall mental and physical well-being. And like I said, I've got that planned for. It's in my calendar. I know every day at this exact time I'm going on my walk or I'm doing my meditation. I'm also trying to go to bed every night by about 10 o'clock if possible. And these are things that I have planned for. Now, another thing that's kind of not always possible, but great to strive for, try and have one day a week where you've got nothing scheduled. So my husband was out with a friend last week or something like that. And his friend had mentioned how, they're same as us, 2 kids, family 4, they just don't do anything on Sundays. Like they never put anything in the calendar for Sundays. That is a day of rest. And, my husband and I looked at each other like, oh, we can do that? I don't know. It's like we just hadn't even considered that we can take one day off a week where we just don't put anything on our schedule. And that's a game changer to just have that day where we're just with the family. And sure, there might be a couple of chores here and there that need to get done. But barring that, we don't have any other big projects on the go. We haven't put anything major into the calendar. It is a day of rest. So even God took a rest on the 7th day. We should all be allowed to do that as well. So plan for it. Make sure you've got nothing scheduled. If it's one day a week or you've got little bits and slivers here and there throughout the day, just make sure you're getting it and put it into the calendar. Okay, that's it. I hope that some of those tips can help you out in at least some small way. And I just want you to know, I think you're doing a great job as a mom, as a business owner, and all of the other roles that I'm sure you have going on in your life as well. I know you're wearing many hats. You're doing a great job. Now, if you haven't already, I invite you to download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low-Content Book in less than a day if you're interested in starting to build a passive income selling journals, planners, notebooks, and more on the Kindle Direct publishing platform. You can find that guide by clicking on the link down in the description below. And if you want to check out some more videos on some mindset and motivation and things like that, you can check out these ones next. And thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, hit the bell to be notified. when the next video is going to be coming out. And if you think someone else you know would get benefit from this video, please go ahead and share it with your friends. Thanks so much for watching.